The chandeliers glinted like captured stars above the Grand Park View Hotel ballroom. But it wasn't the sparkling crystal or polished marble that drew everyone's attention that night. Layla Johnson, a black mother in a plain blue uniform, was spinning alone in the center of the floor, her movements fluid and precise, each step telling a story of 15 years of lost opportunities and hidden dreams. Victor Caldwell, the billionaire who had made it his life's mission to humiliate anyone daring to rise above their station, stepped into the room, smirking, convinced he had caught her in a trap. "Let's see if our little janitor can dance for real," he shouted, summoning hundreds of wealthy eyes to watch. For a heartbeat, Layla froze, then exhaled, and with the courage that had carried her through loss, prejudice, and unrelenting struggle, she began to move again. Every spin, every lift, every turn was a defiance, a revelation, and the start of a story no one in that room would ever forget. Layla Johnson wiped the marble floor of the Grand Park View Hotel for what felt like the 100th time that evening, her hands gripping the mop handle so tightly that her knuckles ached. Her uniform, a plain blue jumpsuit, felt heavier than usual, as if the fabric itself carried the weight of every struggle she had endured. She glanced at her watch. Ethan and Zoe, her two children, were sleeping in their small Brooklyn apartment, blissfully unaware of the sacrifices she made just to keep a roof over their heads. The faint sound of the city outside filtered through the hotel windows, a reminder that life outside this gilded cage of wealth and glitter was never truly hers. She inhaled sharply, the familiar scent of polish and wax mixing with the faint perfume of the guests who would arrive any minute. Her life had been a series of choices no one else seemed to understand. At 15, she had been the prodigy everyone whispered about, the dancer with a soul that could outshine the stage lights. Starlight Ballet Academy in Chicago had offered her a scholarship, a one-way ticket to a future she had dreamed of since childhood. But fate had other plans. Her mother, Grace, suffered a sudden stroke just days before she was to leave, and Layla had stayed behind, abandoning her chance to study abroad to care for the woman who had raised her alone. She never regretted it, not truly, but the world had a way of punishing those who chose responsibility over ambition. By 21, Layla was a mother to Ethan, and by 23, Zoe joined their small family. Her husband, Derek, had been a gentle, hardworking man who shared her dreams quietly, but he was gone now, taken in a traffic accident when Ethan was 5 and Zoe only 2. The apartment she returned to each night was small, the walls echoing with absence and the quiet hum of struggle. Her paycheck from the vet clinic during the week barely covered rent and bills. Weekends, she scrubbed floors and polished silver at events where the rich laughed and flaunted their wealth, never noticing her, never seeing her. Tonight, she found herself in the Grand Park View Hotel, preparing for the annual Caldwell Foundation Gala, a charity event that drew some of the wealthiest people in New York. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, each dangling prism reflecting light onto floors so polished they mirrored the guests' expensive shoes. Tables draped in white linen were adorned with centerpieces that could have funded a month of groceries for her family. Layla had walked these floors countless times before, invisible to the elite who judged her for her uniform, her skin, her class. But tonight she carried a secret with her, one she had not revealed to anyone, not even Derek, before he passed. As she adjusted a centerpiece of orchids, the first notes of the Blue Danube floated through the ballroom, played by the orchestra warming up in the corner. Layla paused, closing her eyes, letting the music seep into her bones. She remembered rehearsing this piece alone in the living room, feet bare on cold wooden floors, while Zoe napped and Ethan dreamed. Every twist, every glide, every turn she had learned as a teenager surged back. She couldn't resist. Her mop lay forgotten as her body instinctively began to move, each step precise, each turn flowing as if the years of absence had never existed. She was no longer the janitor, no longer the woman struggling to make ends meet. She was the dancer she had always been, free, might and unbroken. Then came the voice that would change everything. Victor Langley, the billionaire real estate mogul whose cruelty was legendary, stepped through the ballroom doors. He had inherited more than just wealth. He had inherited the ability to publicly humiliate those beneath him for his amusement. His sharp eyes caught sight of Layla mid-spin, and a wicked smile curled across his face. He clapped slowly, mockingly. Well, look at this, he shouted, his voice cutting through the music. Our little janitor thinks she's a star. Let's give everyone a show, shall we? Layla froze for a heartbeat, the warm glow of her private world collapsing around her. The entrance of Victor brought the attention of hundreds of guests, their gazes now locked on her. The whispers began, hushed and cruel, spreading like wildfire. Layla's heart hammered in her chest, not just from fear, but from the sting of familiarity. She had felt this before, the silent judgment of those who assumed she was less than, because of the color of her skin, because of her station. Victor stepped closer, exuding confidence and entitlement. Since you're so talented, why don't you dance for us? His tone was theatrical, but the threat was clear. Succeed and earn a small fortune, fail and be crushed, publicly, permanently. The stakes were terrifyingly real. This was not just a test of skill, it was a test of her dignity, her worth, her right to exist in a room that had never welcomed her. Layla's knees trembled, but not from doubt. She drew in a deep breath and remembered the evenings with Mrs. Eleanor Foster, the retired ballerina who had guided her in secret. Your talent belongs to no one but you, Eleanor had whispered as Layla perfected her pirouettes in a makeshift basement studio. She remembered the hours of patient correction, the evenings spent pushing her body past exhaustion, the quiet moments when she cried alone for lost opportunities. Eleanor had reminded her that true art was never bound by circumstance. The orchestra shifted, playing the opening chords more deliberately this time, prompted by Victor's command. Layla exhaled slowly, centering herself. For a fleeting moment, she saw her children's faces in her mind. Ethan's bright, expectant eyes, Zoe's small hands clapping in rhythm with the music they would never hear tonight. This dance was for them, for the years of sacrifice, for the life she refused to let poverty and prejudice define. As she moved again, the crowd fell silent. Every gesture, every spin, every extension told the story of a life lived under constraints, of a Black woman who had been invisible to the world, of a mother fighting for her children and herself. Victor's sneer faltered, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. The woman he had aimed to humiliate was not simply surviving. She was commanding the room with artistry, grace, and undeniable power. For minutes that stretched like hours, Layla danced, blending technique with raw emotion. Every eye in the ballroom was on her. Every phone pointed to her, yet she remained untouchable in her truth. The music carried her story, one of resilience, injustice, love, and undying hope. And as the final notes echoed, the room held its breath, realizing they had witnessed something extraordinary. Layla Johnson had transformed from an invisible worker into a beacon of talent, courage, and dignity. If you were watching this performance unfold live, what would your reaction be and why? The silence that followed Layla Johnson's final bow was almost unbearable. 500 people, who had moments before been poised to mock her, now sat frozen, caught between awe and disbelief. Victor Caldwell, the man who had made it his life's work to crush anyone daring to rise above their assigned place, felt a heat he had never experienced before. His pride, his control, even his power, slipping from him in real time. He had assumed humiliation was a tool, a spectacle, something to entertain his peers. Instead, it had boomeranged, exposing his emptiness. Dr. Claire Reynolds stepped forward, her eyes glistening with emotion. She was no stranger to seeing talent, to seeing the stars of tomorrow. But this raw brilliance infused with a lifetime of struggle, was different. She grasped Layla's hand firmly and said, "Miss Johnson, we need to talk about your future. What we just witnessed cannot remain hidden." The words carried authority, but also reverence. For a fleeting second, the ballroom, bathed in golden light from the chandeliers above, felt like the stage Layla had always dreamed of, one she had been denied for far too long. Victor's hands trembled as he stepped toward her, forced by the reality he could not escape. I suppose the bet," he stammered. "The 5,000 I owe you." He extended the stack of crisp bills, the first moment of vulnerability in his life. Layla looked at him, her expression calm but commanding. "You don't have to do more than that," she said softly, nodding toward the polished floor where she had danced. There was mercy in her tone, though she had no obligation to show any. Victor understood, in a way he had never understood anything before, that power is hollow without respect. For Layla, the stakes of that bet had been far higher than money. $5,000 meant 3 months of rent covered, medical appointments for little Zoe, proper shoes and clothes for both children, and perhaps, just perhaps, a chance to reclaim a part of her life she had thought lost forever. But Victor had underestimated one thing: resilience born of necessity. She had faced loss, prejudice, exhaustion, and societal disregard her entire life. A ballroom full of elite spectators armed with their sneers and assumptions was nothing compared to years of fighting to survive as a black mother in a city that often refused to see her. Victor attempted to recover some of his composure by summoning Simon Carrington, his longtime associate. "Make sure the orchestra plays her the hardest waltz," he whispered with a cruel grin, unaware that his instructions would amplify her victory. The maestro, Vincent Rossi, merely raised an eyebrow at Victor and nodded, professionally accommodating the request while maintaining his own judgment. Everyone in the room had assumed Layla would falter, and Victor's confidence had been absolute. But Layla had not stopped dancing. Every pirouette, every jeté, every sweeping arc of her arms was executed with precision that came not only from natural talent, but from 15 years of suppressed artistry. In her mind, she saw the faces of Mrs. Eleanor Foster, her mentor, guiding her with patience, of her late mother, whose sacrifices had forced her to choose family over opportunity, and of her children, waiting at home, never understanding the dreams their mother had once held. Each movement told a story, a narrative of struggle and triumph that no ballroom of the elite could ignore. As the tempo accelerated, the audience felt the full weight of her talent. The sophisticated guests who had planned to mock her were now gasping, whispering to each other, some even wiping away tears. Dr. Claire Reynolds, seated in the front row, felt a shiver of recognition for the depth of her interpretation. Technical perfection married to raw human emotion. She had seen many dancers, but none had conveyed life itself through movement the way Layla did tonight. Victor's jaw tightened. The man who had always wielded wealth as a weapon now felt powerless. Each spin, each leap, exposed his cruelty for what it was: insecurity masquerading as superiority. Layla's dance was more than art. It was an indictment, a challenge to every assumption he had made about people like her. She was black. She was working class, and yet here she was, captivating and commanding a room filled with the city's wealthiest and most influential, proving that talent and dignity do not bend to status. As the final notes rang out, Layla struck her closing pose, arms extended, chin lifted, breath measured and controlled. The silence hung, charged, almost unbearable. Then, one by one, the clapping started. Dr. Reynolds leapt to her feet, her applause echoing through the hall, a signal for everyone else. Soon the room erupted into a standing ovation, cheers cascading over her like waves. Phones lifted to record the moment, capturing for posterity a performance that would redefine perceptions and expectations. Victor Caldwell remained frozen, a study in disbelief and shame. His empire of influence, his carefully curated reputation, had been challenged and upended by a single black mother who had refused to be invisible. Simon Carrington and the other elite guests looked on, awe mixing with embarrassment at how miscalculated their assumptions had been. This was not the spectacle they had anticipated. It was a revelation. Later, as Dr. Reynolds approached her with an invitation to join the Metropolitan Dance Theater as a principal dancer, Layla felt the weight of everything she had carried start to lift. The children's future, her own dignity, and the reclamation of a lifelong passion were finally within reach. Victor, meanwhile, quietly collected himself and left the ballroom, the echo of his public humiliation resonating far more powerfully than any business loss could have. The lesson was clear: respect and recognition cannot be bought. They must be earned, and they can be wielded even by those society has tried to erase. The weeks after the gala were nothing short of transformative. Layla Johnson had gone from an invisible figure among New York's glittering elite to a symbol of resilience and brilliance. Dr. Claire Reynolds ensured that her talent was nurtured professionally, offering her a contract as a principal dancer at the Metropolitan Dance Theater. For the first time in years, Layla could imagine a life where her children, Ethan and Zoe, would never have to feel the limitations imposed by poverty or prejudice. Her apartment in Brooklyn, once cramped and cluttered, had been replaced with a modest but sunlit townhouse in Queens. Layla had negotiated flexible rehearsals and performance schedules, ensuring that she could still be present for the children. Zoe's asthma was under control thanks to a new specialist, and Ethan's eyes shone with pride, finally able to boast among his peers, "My mom is a dancer at a real theater." These were victories money alone could not buy. They were triumphs of dignity, love, and perseverance. Victor Caldwell, on the other hand, had been forced to confront a reality he had never experienced. His public humiliation, captured on dozens of smartphones and shared across social media, had eroded his carefully curated image. Investors withdrew, charitable donors questioned his motives, and the foundation he used as a social facade lost credibility. Humiliation had never tasted like this, sharp, undeniable, and irreversible. Yet, it was also an education. Victor eventually sought to make amends, donating quietly to community arts programs for underprivileged children, acknowledging, however late, that cruelty and elitism had real consequences. Layla's performances at the Metropolitan Dance Theater became the talk of the city. Critics praised not only her technical precision, but the storytelling in every gesture, every lift, every pirouette. Audiences were moved not simply by her skill, but by the depth of emotion that emanated from someone who had fought so fiercely to reclaim her voice. She danced the classics with a unique blend of grace and raw authenticity, capturing the essence of a life shaped by struggle, loss, and unwavering hope. Offstage, Layla continued to champion causes close to her heart. With Dr. Reynolds' guidance, she launched the Johnson Arts Initiative, a scholarship program dedicated to young dancers from marginalized communities, particularly children of color, providing mentorship, training, and financial support. The program quickly gained attention, with participants reporting that it was life-changing, giving them not just the tools for ballet, but the belief that society could not define their worth. Layla understood firsthand how transformative a single opportunity could be. Ethan and Zoe thrived in this new environment. Ethan excelled in school, encouraged by his mother's example of perseverance, while Zoe's laughter filled the house without the constant shadow of illness. On weekends, Layla often danced at home for the children, spinning and leaping in the living room, not for an audience, but to remind herself and them that life could hold buoying even after hardship. Her children learned early that determination and integrity mattered far more than wealth or social standing. The culmination of Layla's journey came on opening night at the Metropolitan Dance Theater. The house was packed, every seat filled with patrons, students, and fellow performers. Cameras discreetly lined the walls, capturing a moment that would inspire countless people who had ever been overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed. As the orchestra played, Layla took the stage, her blue and silver tutu sparkling under the lights. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, feeling the rhythm not just in her ears, but in her bones, the rhythm of a life reclaimed, of dreams deferred but not destroyed. Every movement that night told a story, the pain of years lost, the struggle of surviving as a Black woman in a world that often ignored her, the love for her children, and the ultimate triumph of her spirit. Each pirouette, each lift, was imbued with a narrative that spoke to anyone who had ever been judged for the color of their skin, their background, or the circumstances into which they were born. When the final note rang, the theater erupted, standing ovation after standing ovation, cheers echoing off the walls, tears streaming freely from strangers who felt the power of her story. Victor Caldwell, now a humbled and quieter man, had attended incognito, curious to see the woman he once tried to humiliate dominate the stage. He watched as the audience erupted, as his former target moved with power, precision, and grace that neither wealth nor cruelty could diminish. And he understood something profoundly human. True worth, true talent, and true dignity cannot be bought, and they cannot be destroyed by malice. Later that evening, backstage, De Reynolds embraced Layla tightly. "You've done more than perform tonight," she whispered. You've changed the lives of everyone who watched you, including your own. You've made a statement the world cannot ignore. Layla looked at her children, who were wide-eyed and smiling, and felt an uncontainable sense of peace. She had not only reclaimed her career, but had restored hope, honor, and possibility for her family and community. The story of Layla Johnson became an inspiration, widely covered in media outlets, shared on social platforms, and celebrated across communities. She was no longer invisible. She was a mother, a dancer, and a symbol of resilience. The world had finally seen her light, one that had never dimmed despite years of struggle. And for Layla, that recognition was sweeter than applause, more lasting than money, and infinitely more valuable than any approval Victor Caldwell could have ever provided. What do you feel when you see Layla standing up against public humiliation? Do you think talent and courage can truly overcome prejudice and bias? If you enjoyed this story, type 111 in the comments. Tell us which country you are watching from, and don't forget to share the video with your friends.